everybody, glad you're here. This is the Chase Squirrelson Show, and I'm your host, Chase Squirrelson. And if you're listening right now, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Today's episode is one of those conversations that starts simple and then goes somewhere interesting. So let's jump in. Welcome back, everybody. And today I want to talk about something that really bothers me quite a bit, and it's kind of the season for big gala events. And what I really hate is when I read black tie only or even black tie optional. So when I was thinking about it, what if we had an event where only people who were ADHD could attend or would attend? And so I'm going to call it the ADHD only gala. We'll call it the annual executive dysfunction ball. So instead of usually feeling like misfits at events like this, everybody fits in. Everybody's welcome to what might be the most ambitious social experiment ever conducted outside of a group text that never got answered. So to be totally transparent, I normally would rather have hemorrhoid surgery than go to one of these events. This is an event where everybody is going to be like me. So for those of you who do expect this episode to be tightly scripted and be in a well-coordinated sequence, forget about it. I've got a serious case of ADHD, and I threw this thing together at the last minute despite having a month to prepare for it. So now back to the event. If anyone expects the chaotic reception area to settle down, let it be known that settling in is optional at this gathering tonight. There is a place where anyone who ever started 5 different tasks before realizing they forgot to arrange for a babysitter is perfectly at home here. So tonight's episode is about a black tie gala, and out of morbid curiosity, we invited 400 people only who had ADHD. That sounds like a huge number, but of course only about 100 people will show up because they lost the invitation, did not read it, or moved from their former address and never bothered to forward their mail. That's right, 100 individuals who will enter a room and have forgotten why they were there and couldn't recall who invited them in the first place. People will be wearing blazers with no tie when they suddenly realize the event was black tie only because months ago they opened the text invitation, briefly scanned it, and many never even bothered to reply. All night, they'll make jokes about not wearing a tux or even lie and say things like they just came from the airport and did not have time to go home and change. All night, they'll have their partners introduce themselves first because they don't remember the names of people they should know. But instead of meeting as many people as possible to drum up some business, they lock onto one person for 35 minutes, staying in the conversation, hoping the person's name will finally come to them. By the end of the night, they've made few useful contacts, but ended up being invited to a Second City improv class, learned the secret to solving Sudoku puzzles, and what percentage of NASA engineers have Asperger's. They also accumulate business cards like they are Pokemon collectors, and later ask themselves, who was Tom and why did I write likes bonsai on the back of his card? For us, this is not a social event. This is a neurological improv show. But I'm already ahead of myself. I need to begin with when we showed up at the event. Let's start with the arrival. Now normally a gala begins, let's say at 7 p.m., but at an ADHD event, only some people start showing up on time. Many show up at 5:30 just to be safe, or 7:45, remembering late that afternoon that the event was tonight, or at 9:10 because they got distracted by a documentary about why Crohn's disease predominantly affects Jewish people. Then comes the disastrous check-in table ordeal. To the unsuspecting, one would think they walked into a Fellini film set complete with disconnected cartoonish characters. You've got only one volunteer because the others went to the wrong venue, trying to hand out a few name tags. Pretty simple exercise, except very few write their real or full names or thought it would be cool to use fake names like Sir Cheops. There would be illegible scrawls that looked like the guy was a doctor writing a drug prescription. Some guy will write, "Hey dude, it's me," while others fill in the tag but then lose it before entering the reception area. At most such gatherings, name tags are considered important, but not here, because even when you read someone's name, you forget it almost immediately. So you just pivot and address everyone the rest of the night as buddy or pal, or simply, "Hey you." And how about the ones that cover their tag with their hand and say, "You don't remember me, do you?" I absolutely hate that. I wish I had a real good comeback for that. So the first wave of guests enter with high energy after leaving their wraps at the coat check, which of course later on turns into a Greek tragedy when many of them lost their coat check numbers. But thankfully, it's now cocktail hour. And this is where anything remotely cohesive becomes unraveled. Because a normal cocktail hour is built on one assumption, that people can hold and stay focused on a conversation. But that assumption is gone and never had a chance. There are multiple continuous conversations that talk over each other, yet this group somehow understands. So let's eavesdrop on a typical conversation, which goes something like this. Bob says, "So what do you do for a living?" Bill says, "That's a great question. So actually and then of course Bob interrupts saying, "Oh wait, have you tried the shrimp?" Bill responds, "Hell no, because the last time I had some at one of these events, I got a bad case of the hives and the runs so bad that I needed adult diapers for a week." Bob says, "Only a week? I had them so bad once that I wore a colonoscopy bag for a month." The conversation ended when a horrified wife drags one of them away. Then there is conversation number 2. Man says, "I've been working in finance for," and is immediately interrupted by the other guy who says, "Finance? That reminds me, did you ever think about the velocity of money?" Soon they're in a 12-minute philosophical debate about the petrodollar, and nobody knows how it started. And the original question, of course, is gone forever. For those of you familiar with my podcast knows that if I'm at an event, my 3-character internal metacognition triangle, which includes Solomon, the thinker, Marcus, the doer, and Ziggy, the dopamine chaser, is involved up to its ears. Solomon, my metacognition guy, is staying present. He's listening, he's engaging. Marcus, the doer of whatever needs to be done, is offering firm handshakes, making eye contact, and asking questions. Ziggy, the dopamine hound, wants us to just walk away mid-sentence. And guess who wins? Then, of course, there's the shrimp station hyperfocus. There is always one thing that captures the ADHD brain, and tonight it's shrimp and crab legs. Yes, the shrimp table becomes the center of the universe, the center of gravity. People don't even eat them right away because they are too busy talking. So they just hold them, study them, analyze their texture and temperature, and wonder how long the global shrimp supply will last if fast food restaurants continue to offer them. I know that in the moment I came here to network, but these shrimp seem to understand me and are trying to tell me something. That's what hyperfocus can do to me. Then, of course, comes the drink table. And the drink table is a trap. People approach it, they pick up a drink, they get distracted, stay there for maybe 45 minutes. They then remember that they wanted to amble over to talk to someone, but just don't remember who that was. Now, finally comes the formal program. This is where the wheels completely fall off. It's time for the opening remarks and then what everyone fears, the speech. The speaker walks up, he's confident, he's prepared, he's focused for all of about 11 seconds. He starts out with something like, "Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to..." Actually, I have a quick question for the audience. Does anyone else feel like many of the chairs are slightly uneven? And how about those ice sculptures? That's all it took to transform the entire room to begin to discuss the chair situation and why don't the sculptures melt more quickly. And this goes on for a dozen minutes. Then, of course, there are the lost notes. At this point, the speaker tries to recover. He searches his pockets for his notes and realizes they're lost. No problem. It's time to wing it. Okay, so we are here tonight to talk about something important. He wrote it down, which was a mistake. He tries to introduce some people and thank them, but forgets names and ignores some of the key people, including his wife, who organized the entire event. He sits down after rambling for a few minutes and then fishes for compliments. The awards ceremony is next, but the presenter momentarily forgets who the winner is and announces the wrong name before being corrected. When the winner is announced, he does not come up to accept the award because he isn't paying attention, nor is anyone else, so no one points it out to him. Besides, the audience has already forgotten what the award is for anyway. Now finally comes dinner. There is a structured seating with assigned tables. There are clear instructions of where people should be, but none of which are followed, primarily because most of the people have lost the little cards with the table numbers on them. So now the seating chaos begins. People sit down, then immediately some get up because they find they are seated at the wrong table. Italian couples are unhappy because there's no bread, cheese, and olive oil at the table, while some annoyed Jewish couples ask to be moved because the wife feels a draft on her ankles. Then comes the etiquette place-setting dilemma. Because there are 4 forks, this becomes a crisis. For ADHDers, it feels like a test. We say we will not be tricked again, and what about which butter plate is whose? When the meal is almost complete, the dessert first people start complaining. I've seen this happen. There's always one group that skips everything and goes straight to dessert. And the caterers are unprepared and try to explain that the baked Alaska must arrive at the tables all at once. Then there's food hyperfocus round 2. Someone becomes obsessed with the bread, the butter texture, the exact temperature of the steak. Meanwhile, their table mates have swapped places 3 times. Then there's dancing. The music starts, the dance floor opens, and half the room begins dancing enthusiastically until someone ruins it by trying to force people to begin a line dance. Everyone stays at their tables, complaining why no one does the tango anymore, how loud the music is, and if the lead singer is married or just wearing an aura ring. As for me, I came here wanting to dance a little, but now I'm suddenly thinking about whatever happened to the White Owl Cigar Company that used to sponsor Home Run Derby. All the while, a small gathering is discussing lighting fixtures with the hotel manager. For the neurotypical, this is the 3rd ring of hell, but for us, the event is a nothing burger. The room is a cacophony of noise, interruptions, unfinished sentences, yet nobody is annoyed. Nobody's judging. Nobody ever says, "Hey, stay on topic." That would be unheard of because the people here can't. Nobody can. Then gradually something strange happens. People settle in, and suddenly what once looked like chaos starts to feel comfortable. Conversations don't need to finish. Unconnected tangents are welcomed, and the frenetic energy is understood. For the first time that evening, no one is apologizing for being themselves. And in a world that constantly says, focus more, be still, act normal, this room, full of 100 distracted, brilliant, hysterically funny, unpredictable minds, finally feels like the one place where nobody must pretend. And that's when you realize this wasn't a failed gala, it was a perfect one. So I'm eventually recapping the night with a friend while searching for my car. I don't remember who I met. I don't remember what I said. I definitely don't remember where I parked. But I do know this. I left with 15 business cards and a soggy shrimp in my pocket, and somehow I felt exactly that this is where I was supposed to be. If this episode hit home, don't keep it to yourself. Send it to someone who'd get it. You can follow the show so you don't miss the next conversation. And if you feel like it, a quick rating helps the show a great deal. Either way, I appreciate you being here. We'll talk soon.
This podcast is for informational purposes only. The content reflects personal experiences and opinions and is not a substitute for professional medical, psychological, mental health, or legal advice. Flint Rock LLC, the hosts, and guests make no representation or warranties and assume no liability for decisions or actions taken based on this content. Always consult a qualified professional regarding your own situation.